Have you ever felt someone's presence so vividly in your dreams that it almost seemed they were calling you? Not in words, but through the quiet rhythm of your soul. What if I told you they dream about you every night, not by coincidence, but by law? An unseen manifestation law that binds imagination and reality together. I once stood at the edge of disbelief. There was someone I loved deeply, yet distance and silence had grown between us. Every night I imagined her beside me, her laughter echoing through the halls of my mind. I saw her smile, I heard her voice, I felt her nearness. At that time, I did not understand that I was engaging in the manifestation of love using imagination, that I was living the law of assumption itself. I was not waiting for the outer world to change. I was changing within. Every thought you sustain, every image you nurture, becomes a living reality in the unseen. They dream about you every night because your assumption has made it so. When one first hears this, it may sound poetic, even mystical, but it is the most practical truth in existence. You cannot experience anything that you have not first imagined. Your imagination is not daydreaming, it is a creative act. Every dream, every encounter, every twist of destiny is conceived first within your own consciousness. The dream world, which you may think of as fantasy, is simply imagination operating at its purest level. Unrestricted, vivid, and alive, it is there that the seeds of your outer life are sown. Imagination is the true cause because consciousness is the only reality. Whatever you are conscious of being, whatever state you occupy within, that is what will appear before you. The law is simple: assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and persist in that assumption until it feels natural. In time, it will harden into fact. You need no external proof to begin. Your feeling is the evidence unseen. The unseen always precedes the seen, just as thought precedes speech and intention precedes action. Consider the process of dreaming. When you sleep, the body rests, but the imagination remains active. It creates entire worlds, people, places, sensations, all so real that you often awaken with emotion still burning within you. The same imagination that builds those dream worlds is the very power constructing your waking reality. Every image you dwell upon, every emotion you sustain, is like planting a seed into the fertile soil of the subconscious mind. That seed must grow, for the subconscious is a faithful servant. It accepts as true whatever it is impressed with, and then brings it forth without question. If you would test this, try it tonight. Before sleep, close your eyes and picture yourself as you wish to be. Feel the emotion of that fulfilled desire until it becomes vivid, until you can sense the scene around you as though it were now. Do not strain or force the vision. Simply surrender to it. Allow the feeling to carry you into that world. Fall asleep in that state, and the subconscious will take it as fact. The next day, or the days that follow, you will see coincidences unfold. People drawn to you, conversations aligning perfectly, events shaping in your favor. These are not miracles, they are manifestations of imagination's unseen work. This is why imagination is sacred. It is not something to be idly used for fleeting entertainment, but the very essence of creation itself. The imagination is the workshop of God within man. Through it, you can call into being that which does not yet exist in the outer world. Every building was first a dream. Every invention began as a mental picture. Every love story, every triumph, every healing, all of it began in the invisible realm of thought and feeling. But most people misuse imagination. They let fear, doubt, and limitation occupy that holy space. They imagine sickness, lack, rejection, and then call it reality. They do not realize they are perpetuating the very conditions they despise. When you imagine the worst, you give it life. When you rehearse pain, you resurrect it. Imagination does not discriminate between what you want and what you fear. It simply creates according to the feeling you sustain. The wise one learns to discipline the inner eye. Instead of allowing the imagination to wander into worry, they choose deliberately the images that align with their desire. They learn to live inwardly in the end state, to feel abundance when there seems to be none, to feel love even in absence, to feel health though symptoms persist. This is not denial, it is creation. You are not ignoring what is, you are giving birth to what shall be. Imagination is the true cause because it operates beyond time. The moment you assume a new state, Creation is finished in the unseen. You may not see the evidence immediately, but it is already established. The bridge of incidents, the sequence of events that will lead you from where you are to the fulfillment of your desire, is quietly being arranged by the unseen intelligence of your own consciousness. Trust it. You do not need to manipulate circumstances or force outcomes. Simply persist in the inner vision, and the outer must conform. When you grasp this, you begin to understand that life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. You are both the dreamer and the dream. The people you meet, the opportunities that arise, even the obstacles that appear, all are drawn into your experience by the quality of your inner imagery. If you would change your life, change the picture within. The outer world has no choice but to reflect it. In the silence of imagination, all things are possible. There are no limits except those you impose by disbelief. When you imagine nobly, when you hold the image of beauty, love, and abundance with conviction, you align with the highest creative principle. The world must then mirror that elevation. Imagination is the silent architect shaping every dream that unfolds, the unseen artist painting the scenes of your destiny. So, guard your inner vision. Let your imagination dwell only on what uplifts, heals, and fulfills. Feel the reality of your desire as though it were already complete, for in the unseen it truly is. Remember, the dream precedes the awakening. Every dream that stirs your soul, every vision that feels alive with meaning. These are not illusions. They are glimpses of what your imagination is already preparing to manifest. And when the moment is ripe, the dream will step forward into form, and you will know it was never a dream at all, but reality, created first in the stillness of your own mind. Have you ever paused to consider that every outcome you have ever desired already exists in potential form, waiting for your recognition? The great secret is that manifestation is not about moving towards your desire, but about moving from it. Thinking, feeling, and living as though it were already accomplished. This is what it means to assume the wish fulfilled. You are not striving to make something happen. You are accepting that it already has. Creation is finished. All that remains is your alignment with the state in which your desire is already a fact. When you desire something deeply, whether love, abundance, healing, or peace, the natural impulse is to look for it in the external world. But the truth is the outer world can only echo your inner assumption. The moment you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you shift the center of your consciousness. You are no longer the one seeking, you become the one who has found. And when this inner change is made, the outer must obey. This law is precise and unyielding. The world reflects your state of being, not your wishes or words. Many speak of their desires endlessly, yet continue to feel lack, separation, and waiting. They pray for what they do not yet believe they possess, and so they remain in a cycle of desire without fulfillment. But when one dares to live from the end, to feel the joy of the answered prayer now, they collapse time itself, for consciousness knows no delay. The assumption, when deeply felt, becomes the bridge by which the unseen walks into sight. To assume the wish fulfilled is to discipline imagination until it feels natural to dwell in the end. This is not pretending or wishful thinking, it is education of the feeling nature. You teach your emotional world to accept what reason denies. Every time you imagine the scene that implies fulfillment, not as something to come, but as something present, you recondition the subconscious mind. The subconscious cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is imagined with conviction. It accepts what you feel to be true and reproduces it faithfully. Let us take an example. Suppose you wish to experience reconciliation with someone dear. The average person would think, how can I bring this about? What should I say? What should I do? But this approach begins from separation, and so it multiplies separation. The one who understands the unseen law knows that no effort in the outer world can precede a change of state within. So they close their eyes, enter the silence, and imagine the feeling of being reconciled, hearing words of affection, sensing the warmth of forgiveness, feeling peace restored. They do not imagine the process, only the result. They live from the end. At first, reason will rebel. It will say, but it has not happened, they have not called. Nothing has changed. Yet reason is the servant, not the master. The imaginal act persisted in reshapes belief. Soon the assumption feels so natural that the old state of lack fades from consciousness. And once the new feeling is accepted as fact, outer events must rearrange themselves to reflect it. Letters arrive, messages appear, meetings occur seemingly by chance. But it is not chance, it is the law fulfilling its own order. The key is emotional fidelity to the end. Do not merely visualize the picture, feel its reality. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the substance of the thing hoped for. It is the bridge between imagination and fact. When you walk each day as the person who already possesses what they desire, the world responds as if you do. You begin to meet people who mirror your new state. Opportunities emerge effortlessly, and synchronicities guide your steps. The outer world bends to your inner conviction. Living from the end requires trust in the unseen. It demands that you release the need to control the process or predict the path. You must surrender to the awareness that the desire itself was given to you because it is already yours. The feeling of completion is the evidence of ownership. When you can inwardly celebrate your fulfillment, when you can feel gratitude before the appearance of proof, you have already claimed the prize. In the unseen realm, assumption is creative command. Every time you return to the feeling of already having it, you deepen the impression upon the subconscious. Repetition of the unseen engraves it upon consciousness until it becomes self-sustaining. You no longer need to strain or affirm endlessly. The feeling becomes natural, and what is natural must externalize. Many fail because they attempt to live toward their goal instead of from it. They constantly remind themselves that they do not yet have what they want. Each moment spent thinking, "Someday I will have it," declares, "I do not have it now." The law answers faithfully, "As you believe, so it is done unto you." But to say inwardly, "It is already mine," with conviction and joy, plants a seed that cannot fail to bloom. Imagine the gardener who holds a seed in his hand. He does not despair that the flower is not yet visible. He knows that within the seed lies the entire pattern of beauty. He plants it, waters it, and trusts the unseen process. Likewise, when you assume the wish fulfilled, you plant the seed of your desire in consciousness. You need not dig it up each day to see if it grows. Your faith is the nourishment that brings it to harvest. The art of assumption is the art of resting in the end. It is learning to feel satisfied without external confirmation. When you can inwardly rest in the joy of your fulfilled desire, you withdraw attention from the problem, and what you withdraw attention from fades away. The new state, being fed by your focus, takes root and blossoms into experience. To assume the wish fulfilled is to live now as though all barriers have dissolved. It is to think, feel, and act from the conviction that your desire is already accomplished. In that conviction lies the power that moves mountains, the quiet certainty that bends reality to your command. Every dream fulfilled, every success attained, every healing achieved has followed this simple, eternal principle live from the end, and the end will live through you. Have you ever awakened from a dream that felt so vivid, so alive, that you could still feel its atmosphere lingering around you? It is in those moments between sleep and wakefulness that the unseen world touches the physical, whispering secrets of creation that the reasoning mind cannot yet grasp. Dreams are not random images dancing in the dark. They are reflections of your inner state, messages from the depths of consciousness revealing what is already being shaped in the unseen. When you understand this, you begin to treat your dreams not as idle fantasies, but as living symbols of your assumptions taking form. Every night, when the body rests, the conscious mind grows silent, and the deeper currents of being rise to the surface. What you truly believe, not what you say you believe, expresses itself in symbols and stories. The dream state is the mirror of the subconscious mind, and the subconscious is the womb of creation. It receives impressions from your waking imagination and translates them into images, sensations, and encounters that speak in the universal language of feeling. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, that feeling is planted like a seed in the fertile soil of the subconscious. During sleep, that seed begins to stir. It takes root, grows, and starts to project its early form into the dream world. The dreams that follow such assumptions are not coincidences. They are messages of union between what is unseen and what is soon to be seen. The mind, released from logic, reveals the harmony between your inner state and the outer world that is forming to match it. Perhaps you have desired reunion with someone, and after nights of imagining love restored, you dream of that person approaching you with warmth and recognition. You awaken filled with emotion so real that it lingers all day. That dream is not a fantasy. It is your inner assumption reaching outward, signaling that the union is already taking place in the unseen. The dream world is the bridge between imagination and manifestation. What appears there is the echo of your own creative act, already accepted by the subconscious and beginning to take shape. Dreams speak in symbols because they come from the realm of feeling, not reasoning. If you dream of receiving a letter, it may not mean a literal letter, but rather communication or contact being established in consciousness. If you dream of standing in light, it signifies illumination and realization of your desire. When you dream of being embraced, it reflects emotional union, the merging of your assumption with its object. The wise pay attention to these messages, not by overanalyzing them, but by recognizing them as confirmation that the inner work is alive and active. The dream world is the rehearsal of reality. There, your assumptions are tested, strengthened, and woven into experience. What you consistently imagine and feel during waking hours becomes the dominant vibration of your being. When you sleep, that vibration plays out freely without resistance, creating scenes that match your emotional tone. In time, those scenes, if nourished by continued belief, harden into facts in your waking life. Thus, to understand dreams is to understand that creation happens twice. First in imagination, then in form. Every dream carries emotion as its essence. Notice the feeling more than the details, for the feeling is the clue to your state of consciousness. If your dreams are filled with joy, peace, and reunion, your inner assumption is harmonious with your desire. But if your dreams are restless, filled with loss or confusion, they reflect inner contradiction, a divided belief still wrestling between doubt and faith. This is not punishment but instruction. The dream is showing you where attention must be redirected, where faith must replace fear. You are never alone in your dreams. Every character you encounter is a projection of your own consciousness, expressing parts of yourself, some accepted, others rejected, all working toward unity. The dream of another loving you is not merely about them. It is your inner love reaching outward, uniting with the image of that person. The dream of reconciliation is not a mere hope. It is your assumption of harmony made visible in the inner theater of being. When you awaken from such dreams, do not dismiss them as fiction. Feel gratitude, for they are signs that the unseen union has begun. This is why persistence in the assumption is vital. Each night you sleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You strengthen the bridge between the visible and invisible. The dream becomes clearer, the message is more certain, and soon the distance between the dream world and waking world disappears. The same scene you once lived inwardly begins to unfold outwardly. You meet the person, receive the message, experience the success, and it feels uncannily familiar, as though you had lived it before. You have. It first occurred in dream, in imagination, in the unseen world where creation begins. To understand dreams as messages of union is to approach them with reverence, not fear. They are sacred communications from the deeper self, confirming that your assumption has been accepted. They whisper, "It is done." Even when the outer world seems unchanged, these dreams assure you that movement has begun beneath the surface. The invisible is aligning itself to express your inner conviction. So each night before you sleep, give your subconscious clear instructions. Do not drift into slumber with thoughts of worry or lack. Instead, clothe yourself in the feeling of accomplishment. Feel loved, fulfilled, complete. Let that be the last impression upon your mind. As you surrender to sleep, you pass that impression to the deeper levels of being, where it will be nurtured and reflected back to you in dreams. Each dream then becomes a step on the bridge of fulfillment, a quiet assurance that imagination has succeeded in impressing reality. Dreams are not to be chased or feared, they are to be understood. They are the language of the unseen, showing you what is already forming in silence. When the dream aligns with your desire, rejoice, for you are in union with your creation. And when it does not, do not despair, adjust your assumption, return to the end, and the message will change accordingly. The dream world is obedient to the feeling you hold. It reveals your faith or your doubt with perfect honesty. In the grand design of consciousness, dreams are the first reflection of faith made visible. They prove that what you have imagined has taken root. They are the union of cause and effect before birth into the physical. So listen to them gently, interpret them through feeling, and know this truth: every dream of fulfillment is your future calling you home. Every dream of love is union already begun, and every dream of joy is the unseen whisper saying, "It is done." When you understand the role of the subconscious mind, you realize that creation is not a battle of effort, but an act of transmission. The subconscious is the invisible bridge between what you imagine and what you experience. It is the silent messenger carrying the impressions of your inner world into the outer stage of life. Every event, circumstance, and relationship that appears before you is the translation of an emotional pattern impressed upon this hidden part of your being. You are not at the mercy of fate. You are the sender, the dreamer, and the one who writes the script through feeling. The conscious mind is the doorway of awareness. It chooses, imagines, and assumes. But it is the subconscious that brings those choices into form. The conscious can think of many things, but only what it deeply feels and accepts as true is received by the subconscious. This is why idle wishing does nothing, while a single act of inner conviction can move mountains. The subconscious does not reason, it accepts. Whatever emotion dominates your being, love or fear, faith or doubt, becomes its command. Once impressed, it must express. You may observe this law in every aspect of your life. A person who constantly fears rejection will meet rejection, not because destiny is cruel, but because their subconscious has been instructed by the repeated feeling of being unwanted. Another, who lives inwardly in the joy of being loved and valued, will find that love and recognition come effortlessly. The subconscious mind is exact, impartial, and creative. It mirrors the vibration it receives and molds the outer world to match it. Understanding this, you begin to see why emotion is the language of creation. The subconscious does not respond to words, it responds to feeling. You may affirm, "I am successful." Yet if you feel unworthy, your subconscious hears only unworthiness. It takes that emotion as truth and expresses it faithfully through circumstances. The moment you change the feeling, you change the pattern. The outer world then reorganizes itself to reflect the new belief. This is the unseen bridge in motion, invisible but infallible. The subconscious mind operates without rest. It never sleeps, even when the body does. During the hours of slumber, it is most receptive, for the conscious guard is lowered and the deeper mind absorbs the last impressions given before sleep. This is why it is said that you must fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. In that drowsy state between waking and dreaming, the door to the subconscious stands open. Whatever image or feeling you send across that threshold will be received as instruction. The subconscious then builds it faithfully in ways you cannot predict, through people, events, and coincidences that seem mysterious but are perfectly natural. Think of the subconscious as a fertile field. The conscious mind is the farmer who chooses which seeds to plant. Every thought charged with emotion is a seed. If you plant seeds of fear, you cannot expect to harvest joy. If you plant seeds of love, you cannot reap loneliness. The law is simple and exact: as within, so without. But unlike the physical farmer, you are always planting. With every thought you feel, with every vision you accept as true, the field never rests, and the harvest is constant. Many struggle because they attempt to change the outer world without changing the inner pattern. They fight circumstances, blame others, and labor to fix results while leaving the cause untouched. The subconscious, however, does not respond to argument or struggle, it responds to impression. When you cease fighting and begin assuming, when you quiet the conscious mind and feel the reality of your desired state, you impress the subconscious directly. It then takes that assumption as law and sets in motion the unseen chain of events that will make it visible. The bridge between the unseen and seen is not time, it is faith. The stronger your conviction, the quicker the subconscious translates it into form. This is why faith is creative power. To believe is to command, for belief is emotion stabilized. When you hold a feeling steadily enough, it becomes an assumption. An assumption is the seed of manifestation. The subconscious does not delay. It begins at once to shape experience in alignment with the dominant feeling. The path may seem mysterious, but nothing is hidden from this law. The subconscious mind communicates not only through dreams, but also through intuition and impulse. It speaks softly, guiding you with inner nudges, coincidences, and inspired ideas. It knows every possible route to fulfill the command given it, for it operates through the intelligence of the whole. When you trust it, you allow the bridge to work without interference. Doubt and impatience are the only barriers that weaken its flow. In truth, the subconscious connects you with everything. It is the meeting ground of the individual and the universal. Through it, your emotions reach others, situations, and even matter itself. This is why love has magnetic power. It travels through the bridge of the subconscious and touches those aligned with its vibration. Fear does the same, but with opposite results. The world is your subconscious turned outward, revealing the sum of your inner assumptions. To educate the subconscious, you must live inwardly in the end you desire. Instead of reacting to appearances, you respond with feeling to the unseen reality you wish to express. When something contrary appears, do not resist it. Return to your inner conviction and feel the fulfillment again. This constant returning to the end state reaffirms the instruction, deepening the impression on the subconscious until it becomes the only truth it knows. The secret lies in repetition with emotion. One quiet moment of vivid imagination can impress more deeply than hours of idle thought. Feel it real and the subconscious obeys. Once the feeling is accepted, it no longer requires effort. It begins its work beneath awareness. Days or weeks later, the result surfaces as though it had always been there. You will find yourself in new circumstances, meeting people who seem perfectly placed, experiencing events that align with your desire. This is not magic, but the natural law of the bridge at work. The subconscious is faithful beyond measure. It never questions, never judges, and never forgets. It only knows how to create according to the image impressed upon it. This is why vigilance of feeling is the foundation of mastery. Every mood is a seed, every emotion a command. The moment you learn to govern your inner life, you begin to walk consciously across the bridge between imagination and reality. The unseen becomes seen, and the invisible emotion becomes the tangible world. The subconscious mind is the bridge, invisible, constant, and utterly obedient, carrying every feeling from the realm of imagination into the substance of your life. It is one of the most misunderstood truths of life that people think they attract what they want. Yet, wanting and believing are two entirely different states of being. Desire without conviction is longing. It is the voice of separation. But belief, the quiet, settled knowing that something already is creative power itself. You never attract that which you merely wish for. You attract only that which harmonizes with the vibration of your inner state. The law is exact and impartial. It does not give you what you beg for, it gives you what you are. To understand this, you must see that your world is nothing more than a mirror reflecting the sum of your assumptions. If you wish to know what you truly believe, look around you. Every relationship, every experience, every repeated pattern is the outer expression of an inward belief. You may speak beautiful words of faith, but your emotions, your reactions, your unguarded thoughts reveal the state you truly occupy. The outer life always bows to the inner conviction. If one lives in the feeling of lack, they cannot attract abundance, even while praying for it daily. For every plea of, I want, secretly declares, I do not have. The law of consciousness cannot contradict itself. It must reproduce your dominant assumption, not your momentary desire. The vibration you send out through feeling is the invitation you send to reality. What you feel to be true, you magnetize. What you feel to be absent, you repel. This is why transformation must begin inwardly. You cannot attract love while feeling unworthy of it. You cannot manifest success while believing that success belongs only to others. The universe does not respond to words but to frequency, and your frequency is the sum total of your beliefs. Every thought charged with emotion shapes your personal vibration, And that vibration becomes the signal the world responds to. Imagine a musician tuning an instrument. The string vibrates at a precise frequency, and when another string of the same tone is nearby, it begins to vibrate in harmony, though untouched. This is resonance. The same law governs consciousness. When you occupy a state of joy, you resonate with joyful experiences. When you dwell in fear, you attract fearful situations. It is not punishment, it is reflection. Life can only echo the tone you sustain within. You are constantly radiating the frequency of your beliefs into the invisible field of creation. That field is neutral, it does not choose for you. It simply reproduces your inner signal in form. When you deeply believe you are blessed, circumstances will rearrange to confirm it. When you secretly believe life is against you, it will obey that belief just as faithfully. The law is impersonal, yet intimate. It works through you, for you, and as you. The tragedy of most people's lives is that they are unaware of what they truly believe. They live by habit, by old emotional patterns, by memories of pain that have hardened into identity. They say they want freedom, yet feel enslaved by circumstance. They speak of love, yet hold resentment. They ask for abundance while imagining scarcity. The subconscious takes these emotions as their true state of being and mirrors them outwardly. To change one's outer life, therefore, one must not force events but alter identity. Change the concept you hold of yourself, and you change everything that appears around you. If you believe you are unloved, you will interpret every gesture through that lens. Even kindness will seem conditional. But the moment you believe yourself worthy of love, the same world transforms. You begin to notice affection where once you saw indifference. You meet people who reflect your new assumption. The change did not occur outside, it occurred within you. The world only responded to the vibration of your new belief. Belief is not an intellectual agreement, it is emotional acceptance. It is the point where thought and feeling unite into knowing. When you truly believe something, it feels inevitable, natural, and effortless. That is why mere affirmations often fail, because they are spoken from a state of doubt. To say, "I am wealthy," while feeling lack, is to affirm contradiction. But when you feel the quiet certainty of abundance, words become unnecessary. The feeling itself is prayer, and the world cannot resist its command. To attract what you desire, you must become it in consciousness. If you want peace, feel peace now. If you want love, assume the inner warmth of being loved now. The outer world is always late to the party. It only joins after you have begun the celebration within. The delay between feeling and manifestation is not punishment but grace. Time allowing your belief to solidify. Persist in the inner conviction, and soon the outer will yield. Your imagination is the workshop of belief. Every image you hold with emotion carves a new groove in consciousness. When you rehearse success inwardly, feel its rhythm, and rest in its satisfaction, your subconscious accepts that version of self as real. Once accepted, it begins to attract circumstances, people, and opportunities aligned with that state. The world bends quietly to meet your assumption, for it cannot do otherwise. Every great change begins with an inward shift from wanting to being. When you stop asking for proof and begin to feel the truth of your desire, you step into harmony with it. The vibration of fulfillment replaces the vibration of need. In that moment, attraction is no longer effort but inevitability. Life flows toward you because you have stopped pushing against it. You have become a vessel of your own answered prayer. The wise learn to guard their inner conversations, for every thought accepted with feeling is a seed of belief. Speak inwardly as one who already possesses what is desired. When you find yourself drifting into complaint or fear, gently return to the feeling of completion. The subconscious mind listens always, recording every emotional word. You must therefore speak from fulfillment, not lack, from love, not longing, from peace, not restlessness. When you understand that you attract what you are, you cease to chase outcomes. You become the cause instead of the effect. You stop searching for signs and become the sign yourself. Your very presence begins to emit the energy of what you have inwardly accepted as real. Others feel it, though they cannot explain it. Opportunities appear, coincidences align, and the world unfolds to mirror your conviction. It has no choice, for creation answers to identity, not to desire. You attract not what you wish, but what you embody. The moment you live from the feeling of already having, you step into the current of creation itself. Life begins to echo your belief in every direction, and what once seemed distant draws near, not because you chased it, but because you became it. There is a delicate art in creation, one that few truly grasp. It is the art of persistence, not the persistence born of struggle, but the persistence born of faith. When you understand the workings of the unseen law, you realize that forcing, striving, or pleading are unnecessary. What is required is a quiet, consistent returning to the inner feeling of fulfillment until that feeling becomes natural. Repetition, when joined with calm assurance, impresses the subconscious more deeply than any burst of desperate effort ever could. Persistence is not effort, it is loyalty to your inner vision. When you persist, you are not wrestling with the outer world. You are reaffirming your inner identity. Every time you return to the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are deepening the groove of belief within consciousness. That repeated impression becomes a living pattern, and the subconscious, once impressed, cannot help but externalize it. Creation is not achieved through strain, but through steady emotional acceptance. Many misunderstand persistence. They think it means working harder, trying longer, or repeating affirmations endlessly in fear that they might stop believing. But true persistence is not anxious repetition. It is restful conviction. You persist by assuming the end and remaining faithful to it, no matter what appearances suggest. You may falter at times, doubt may whisper, and conditions may contradict. Yet you calmly return to the end again and again, knowing that the unseen law must fulfill what has been accepted as true. The subconscious is like fertile soil, and your assumptions are its seeds. The soil does not demand effort, it only requires consistency. If you plant a seed and water it daily, it will grow. But if you keep digging it up to check its progress, you destroy its roots. Likewise, when you constantly question your manifestation, when will it happen? Is it working? You uproot the very seed you planted. The wise planter waters quietly, trusting the process. They persist without anxiety, knowing the harvest is certain. To persist without effort is to move beyond willpower and into naturalness. You cannot force belief. You can only grow into it through gentle repetition of feeling. The more often you assume the state of the wish fulfilled, the more natural it becomes, and the old state fades from memory. Soon, you no longer need to remind yourself. You simply are. The state of fulfillment becomes your home, and the outer world must mirror it. Persistence has nothing to do with physical endurance. It is emotional steadiness. You may continue your daily life, fulfill your duties, engage with others. Yet inwardly you remain anchored in your chosen state. When challenges arise, you do not react as before. You respond from the new identity you have claimed. This quiet consistency is what turns imagination into fact. It is the secret rhythm that moves unseen beneath the surface of time, aligning events with your assumption. In the beginning, this may seem unnatural. The old habits of doubt and fear will attempt to reclaim your attention. They will whisper, "It's not working. Look at the evidence." But evidence belongs to yesterday. The world you see is the echo of past beliefs, not the reflection of your new assumption. Do not wrestle with shadows. Simply return again and again to the inner feeling of the fulfilled desire. Each return strengthens the bridge between the unseen and the seen. You persist without effort when you fall in love with the end. Love does not strain, it delights in the object of its affection. When you truly love the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you cannot help but return to it. You think of it naturally, joyfully, effortlessly. That feeling, when repeated with sincerity, becomes a magnetic force that draws its own likeness into being. You do not chase results, you rest in the sweetness of fulfillment. It is important to understand that persistence does not mean ignoring reality. It means recognizing that reality is fluid, that the outer world always conforms to the inner conviction. When something contrary appears, you do not deny it. You reinterpret it as part of the unfolding. You know it has no permanence. You refuse to give energy to appearances that contradict your assumption. Instead, you reaffirm quietly, "This too is leading to the fulfillment of my desire." Such inner composure is the highest form of persistence. The subconscious mind learns through repetition, not logic. Just as a melody becomes familiar through hearing it often, the subconscious becomes conditioned through repeated feeling. That is why every great change comes through persistence in imagination. The first time you assume the wish fulfilled, it may feel unnatural, like playing a new instrument. But as you continue, the feeling deepens. What was once forced becomes fluent. You find yourself feeling at home in the end. And when that happens, manifestation is inevitable. Persistence without effort is also patience without waiting. You do not wait for results. You live in the knowing that they are already done. Waiting implies separation, but patience in this context is peace. The calm confidence that the unseen law is working even when you cannot see how. The flower blooms not because it forces itself, but because it naturally unfolds from the seed already planted. So too does your manifestation unfold in perfect timing, shaped by the unseen intelligence of your own subconscious mind. Every great creator has lived by this truth, whether they knew it consciously or not. They held to their vision when no one else believed. They persisted not by willpower, but by quiet conviction that their inner picture was already real. This invisible fidelity drew circumstances, people, and ideas together in perfect order to fulfill their dream. The world calls it luck or talent, but it is law. Persistence of feeling until fulfillment appears. When you learn to persist without effort, life becomes a graceful unfolding rather than a struggle. You no longer chase outcomes or plead with unseen forces. You realize that the universe is an obedient servant to the feeling you maintain. Your task is simply to hold the tone. Each day, return to the state of completion. Each night, fall asleep in it. Each doubt, gently replace with faith. Over time, the repetition of feeling impresses the subconscious so deeply that it can no longer be denied expression. The outer world must conform, for it is only a reflection of the inner. Persistence is the rhythm of creation, the steady heartbeat of belief continuing without strain. The law does not respond to brief bursts of emotion, but to sustained conviction. So be constant, but not tense. Be devoted, but not desperate. Let the feeling of fulfillment become the background music of your life. In this quiet repetition, you teach your subconscious what to believe, and it obeys without resistance. And when the unseen bridge is fully formed, the dream you have nurtured in silence will bloom into the light, effortlessly, naturally, inevitably, just as it was always meant to. There are moments in life when reality seems to whisper back to you, as though it has overheard the silent conversations you've been having with yourself. These moments, often dismissed as coincidences, are the early confirmations that your inner world and your outer world are beginning to harmonize. Dream manifestations. Those subtle signs, brief encounters, unexpected symbols, and sudden alignments are not random. They are the first visible reflections of your inner belief taking shape. They appear to reassure you that the unseen has heard, that creation has begun, and that your assumption is moving toward visibility. To understand dream manifestations, you must first understand that everything begins and ends in consciousness. Your thoughts and feelings do not vanish into the void. They take root in the invisible field of creation and express themselves through form. The dream is not separate from reality. It is the forerunner of it. When you begin to see traces of your desire in small, almost playful ways, it is not coincidence. It is confirmation that your vibration has changed. These outer hints are the universe echoing your new state of being, letting you know that alignment has been achieved. Every belief carries a frequency, and that frequency determines the quality of experiences drawn to you. When you change what you believe about yourself, even slightly, life begins to reorganize around that belief. A song you hear, a phrase someone says, a sudden dream that mirrors your desire, all of these are outer reflections of your new inner alignment. They are not to be worshipped or clung to but understood. They are signposts along the path, showing that your inner assumption has found resonance in the physical world. Dream manifestations are like dawn before sunrise. The light on the horizon does not mean the sun might rise. It means it is already rising. The signs appear not to tease you but to assure you that the process is underway. Too often, people mistake these early signs for the end itself, or worse, they ignore them altogether. When you understand the law of assumption, you see these manifestations for what they are, messages from the unseen confirming that your inner vision is alive and active. For example, suppose you have been assuming the feeling of reconciliation with someone. You imagine their warmth, their voice, their presence. Soon after, you begin to see their name appearing unexpectedly. In a book, on a screen, in conversation. You may dream of them vividly or encounter someone who reminds you of them. These are not accidents. They are manifestations of your belief rippling through reality. Your subconscious has accepted the assumption, and now the outer world is responding in kind. The key is how you respond to these signs. If you react with excitement and then fall back into doubt, saying, "Maybe it's a sign, but what if it means nothing?" You break the alignment. The signs do not require your analysis, they require your trust. The moment you see them, rejoice quietly, not as one who waits, but as one who knows. Feel gratitude, for you are witnessing the invisible law in motion. Every sign, every dream, every symbol is a reminder that what you have assumed is already forming in the unseen. Dream manifestations also reveal the precision of the subconscious mind. It arranges reality in ways that defy logic but never violate law. You may be led to new people, places, or ideas that seem unrelated, yet all serve the unfolding of your desire. The subconscious uses infinite means to express one cause, your assumption. That is why faith is necessary. You cannot predict how fulfillment will come, but you can trust that it will. When you remain loyal to your inner vision, the signs will multiply, each one drawing you closer to the tangible result. In truth, these manifestations are reflections of your inner climate. When you live in harmony with your desire, life begins to mirror your peace. Opportunities arise naturally, doors open without effort, and people appear who play their perfect part. The outer world moves as though guided by an unseen hand, because it is. That hand is your own consciousness expressing itself through form. Dream manifestations are proof that your consciousness has begun to crystallize into matter. To see them clearly, you must cultivate awareness. Too often, the signs pass unnoticed because the mind is preoccupied with doubt. When you are always searching anxiously for proof, you create noise that drowns out the whisper of confirmation. But when you rest in faith, signs flow gently into your experience. You begin to recognize them effortlessly, not because you are looking for them, but because your inner state naturally reveals them. The outer world becomes a mirror reflecting your serenity, your certainty, your inner union with the desired state. Dream manifestations can also come through the literal dream world. During sleep, when the conscious mind rests, the subconscious freely expresses your dominant assumptions. You may dream of living your desire, experiencing its joy, or interacting with those involved. Such dreams are not mere fantasy. They are previews of what is taking shape in consciousness. They are the bridge between imagination and manifestation. When you awaken from such dreams, do not dismiss them as imagination gone astray. Honor them as messages that the unseen work is succeeding. The wise do not chase signs, they recognize them. They do not look outward for confirmation, they feel inwardly for alignment. Signs appear naturally when you no longer need them. When your faith is steady, they arrive as gentle affirmations that you have impressed the subconscious fully. The outer world, now reflecting the inner state, begins to arrange itself into the perfect pattern that fulfills your assumption. Remember that manifestation unfolds through stages of subtlety. First, there is feeling, the inner conviction that something is true. Then come the signs, the small, seemingly insignificant reflections of that truth. Finally, the full materialization, the event, circumstance, or encounter that matches the original assumption. To dismiss the early stages is to disregard the law in motion. The one who persists with patience, recognizing every sign as proof of progress, will see fulfillment without struggle. Dream manifestations are not rewards, they are confirmations. They are evidence that you are no longer at war with your desire, that your inner state and your imagined end have merged into one. When you see them, do not ask, "Is it happening?" Instead, affirm, "It is already done." That attitude of quiet assurance sustains the bridge between the invisible and the visible. Life is always speaking to you through signs, dreams, and alignments. When your belief is firm, these messages become unmistakable. They are not separate from you. They are extensions of your consciousness echoing back your conviction. Every dream that feels real, every coincidence that stirs recognition, every unexpected moment of beauty that mirrors your desire, all are confirmations that the unseen law is faithfully fulfilling your assumption. Dream manifestations are the universe's way of saying, you are in tune. They are the soft knock before the door opens, the whisper before the shout, the prelude before the symphony begins. They are not promises. They are fulfillment unfolding. When you see them, smile inwardly and remain faithful to your end. For they mean only one thing: your belief has been heard, your assumption has been accepted, and your unseen creation is on its way into form. The world you experience is not an accident, nor is it the product of forces outside of your control. Every circumstance, every encounter, every moment of your life is born from imagination, the inner workshop of consciousness. It is there, within the silent realm of thought and emotion, that reality takes its first breath. Imagination is not a daydream or idle fancy. It is the creative power of awareness shaping substance into form. When you understand that imagination creates reality, you no longer see yourself as a victim of life, but as its author. Everything that exists began as an image in the mind of someone who dared to feel it real. Every invention, every discovery, every work of art was first conceived as an invisible idea. The great cathedral stood first in the builder's imagination before a single stone was laid. The melody lived in the composer's soul before a single note was heard. What you see around you is only the solidified residue of once living imagination. You are surrounded by thoughts that have been made visible. The same law governs your personal world. Your imagination, infused with feeling, molds the invisible substance of reality into visible experience. You do not need to beg or strive for what you desire. You need only to imagine it vividly and feel it as though it were already here. The act of imagining, when united with belief, is the act of creation. It is through imagination that the unseen becomes seen, the potential becomes actual, and the dream becomes fact. To imagine effectively, you must go beyond mere visualization. It is not enough to see a mental picture. You must enter into it, live within it, and feel its reality. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret key that unlocks the creative power of imagination. When you feel a thing as though it were already accomplished, you impress that feeling upon the subconscious mind, and the subconscious, being creative, expresses it in form. The world then rearranges itself to reflect your inner conviction. Imagine, for example, a person who longs for healing. If they focus on their illness, they continue to imagine lack and separation from health. But if, in the stillness of their mind, they feel the freedom of wellness, the vitality of perfect health, and the relief of being whole again, that inner state begins to reproduce itself outwardly. The cells of the body respond to the new command, conditions shift, and life mirrors the imagined state. The healing did not come from effort, but from imagination accepted as truth. Imagination obeys emotion, not logic. You may rationally know that you are capable of achieving something, yet if you feel doubt, imagination will create according to that doubt. Feeling is the language of the creative power. It speaks directly to the unseen intelligence within you. Every emotion is a blueprint shaping the events of your life. When you dwell in fear, you build realities that justify your fear. When you dwell in faith, the world forms itself around your confidence. The difference lies not in circumstance, but in inner vision. The power of imagination is most evident in dreams and reverie. When you dream, you live in a world as vivid and real as the waking world, though no physical object has changed. The same imagination that creates those dreamscapes also creates the life you live daily. The difference is that in dreams, you are unconscious of your creative power, while in waking life, you may become conscious of it. The moment you take control of imagination, you become the master of reality. The outer world is a mirror. It reflects your inner pictures and emotional tones with perfect fidelity. When you see limitation, you are not discovering a law of fate. You are witnessing a reflection of your own belief. To change what you see, you must change what you imagine. This requires discipline, for the senses constantly tempt you to accept appearances as truth. Yet appearances are shadows, temporary reflections of past imagination. The unseen is the true substance. As you persist in imagining the ideal, the shadow must eventually conform to the light that casts it. Imagination does not operate only in grand moments, it shapes the smallest details of your existence. The way people treat you, the opportunities that come your way, even the random coincidences of the day, all are drawn from the silent assumptions you hold about life. When you imagine lovingly, life responds with kindness. When you imagine fearfully, life mirrors uncertainty. You are surrounded not by an indifferent universe, but by a living mirror that answers every emotional whisper you send into it. To use imagination consciously, begin by quieting the mind. Detach from the noise of appearances and enter the stillness within. Then construct a simple scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire, not the process of achieving it, but the end result. Let the scene be short and vivid, something you can easily bring to mind. Then, most importantly, feel the reality of that scene. Engage all the senses. Hear the sounds, see the colors, breathe the air of the imagined moment. Feel gratitude as though it were already true. The subconscious mind will accept that feeling as fact, and reality will obey. There is no limit to what imagination can create, for imagination is infinite. Time and space are no barriers to it. What you imagine now exists already in the invisible realm. The delay between your assumption and its physical expression is only the interval needed for it to crystallize into form. During this time, hold your vision with faith, not strain. Do not look for evidence, live from the evidence within. As you persist, the imagined state becomes more natural, and the outer world, being obedient, must yield. Imagination creates reality because consciousness is the only creative force. Everything you accept as true becomes your world. To imagine success while feeling failure is to divide your power. But when imagination and feeling unite, the result is inevitable. You do not have to know how it will unfold. The law itself arranges the means. The unseen intelligence that governs all life takes your inner image and organizes the outer world to match it. The most astonishing truth is that this creative process is always at work. You are imagining constantly, whether deliberately or unconsciously. The emotions you repeat daily are instructions to reality. Every complaint, every hope, every vision becomes a command. You cannot stop imagining, but you can learn to imagine wisely. When you fill your mind with noble, loving, and elevated images, the world becomes noble, loving, and elevated in return. Imagination is the eternal bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the divine spark within human awareness, capable of transforming limitation into abundance, despair into joy, and shadow into light. To imagine is to create. Every vision, when felt true, hardens into fact. It cannot fail, for this is the law of life itself. What you hold faithfully in imagination must one day step forward into visibility, clothed in the fabric of your belief, proving beyond all doubt that imagination, not circumstance, is the true creator of your world. Everything that has been spoken, every truth about assumption, persistence, feeling, and faith, leads to one unchanging conclusion: reality is born from within. The outer world is only a mirror reflecting the unseen movements of consciousness. To change your life, you do not need to beg, strive, or chase. You need only to awaken to your creative power and direct it wisely. When you assume the wish fulfilled, when you persist without effort, when you feel the end so vividly that it becomes natural, the unseen law responds faithfully. Dreams, signs, coincidences, and circumstances align to confirm that your inner vision has taken root. The subconscious mind, ever obedient, builds your world according to the blueprint of your imagination. You attract what you are, not what you plead for. You become magnetic to the images and feelings you sustain. Every emotion, every quiet assumption, every picture you carry within is shaping tomorrow's experience. The unseen is not distant. It is the foundation of everything visible. The world is your imagination made manifest, a perfect reflection of the state you occupy in consciousness. There is no greater discovery than realizing that imagination creates reality. Once you grasp this, you stop living as a reactor to circumstance and begin to live as a conscious creator of destiny. You cease asking, "How will it happen?" and begin to feel, "It is already done." The struggle dissolves, for you understand that creation is finished. You are simply aligning yourself with the version of reality that already exists. Every fulfilled dream, every answered prayer, every miracle witnessed is proof of this law. Imagination is the seed, belief is the soil, persistence is the sunlight, and faith is the water that brings all things to bloom. When these elements unite, nothing can remain unseen. The invisible becomes visible, the dream becomes tangible, and life bends gracefully to your command. So go within, close your eyes to the world and open them to the infinite world inside. Dare to imagine nobly, to feel deeply, and to persist gently. Know that the unseen law is forever listening, forever creating, forever bringing forth the images you accept as real. And when your world changes, as it must, you will understand that it was never coincidence, never luck, but the power of imagination fulfilling its own eternal promise. As you imagine, so shall you become.